it's Anna and welcome to my April Readathon. I am extremely excited for this Readathon because I feel like I'm reading the most books at the same time that I have been, and I'm excited to finish them all hopefully this weekend. And I feel like I have a lot of books that I can pick from to read, and I'm getting through my advanced reader copies really well. So I feel like it's a little bit of a chaotic lineup, but one that I'm excited for. So far this month, I've read 3 physical books and 2 ebook arcs, which means that any book that I finish in this readathon, I get a book buying credit for, so I'm really motivated to try to read as many as possible, especially because I already spent the 1 book buying credit I got this month. Let me show you what I'm reading physically first, then we'll talk about the ebook, and I'll talk about what I'm listening to, and then show you our, like I said, kind of chaotic lineup. So the first book that I want to finish is Alone with You in the Ether. As you can see, I'm already a little ways into it. The beginning of this book was terrible. It was so boring. That sounds terrible. I am not somebody that reads, at least when I'm reading for pleasure, that I want to analyze every sentence. I'm not a very big literary fiction reader, and this talking about quantum theories and hexagons and all of that, over my head, not for me. But I'm giving this book a chance. So this book might be one that I actually DNF. I'm currently on page 80, and a lot of the advice that I've seen is, if you want to DNF a book, give it at least to 100 pages. We're gonna see how I feel at page 100 if I'm still gonna keep going, and then, I have no idea what's going to happen with this one. But my next physical book, I'm pretty confident I'm gonna finish, and that is Happy Place by Emily Henry. This is a buddy read. You can see we've already read quite a bit. We've been reading this book together for the past 2 days in the afternoon. And like I said, we got pretty far with it. So I'm pretty confident we're gonna be able to finish this during the readathon. In terms of the ebook that I'm currently reading, I am really enjoying The Night in Question, which is the second in the Agatha series by Kathleen Glasgow and Liz Lawson. And again, I'm also really enjoying that one. I can only read it on my phone because I don't have a Kindle. So my eyes definitely get strained. What I feel like I'm gonna do this weekend is balance between reading on my phone and reading a physical book. And of course, continue to listen to audiobooks. The audiobook that I'm currently listening to right now is If We Were Villains, and I have about 2.5 hours left of that audiobook. I feel like I'm pretty confident in finishing the 2 physical books that I have, the 1 ebook arc that I have, and then finishing listening to If We Were Villains. The most straightforward part of what I might potentially get to during the readathon is with my audiobooks. So the first audiobook that I'm going to pick up once I finish If We Were Villain is Atalanta, which is an ebook arc. It seemed really interesting, so I am curious to get back into more of, again, that Greek-inspired mythology. I feel like I haven't read a book like that in a little while, so I'm excited to get back into that type of genre. If I finish Atalanta, I also have Wrong Place, Wrong Time in my Libby, which I'm so excited. This book has been on hold for a little bit, and I am really anxious to get to this. I feel like I've heard good things. It seems like it's going to be right up my alley. So I have those 2 audiobooks, and I'm really going to try to not have this readathon be so focused on audiobooks because I feel like that's what I've done in the past. I really want to hit it hard with the physical and ebooks. So for ebooks, I have 7 sitting in my NetGalley, and I want to at least try to start another one, if not finish a whole other one. I will then start Guardians of the Dawn, Zahara. And then for physical books, this is my stack of standalone books that I could read for the readathon. And I'm not really a mood reader, but I feel like after having the 2 romance physical books, I feel like there's only a few on here that I would want to pick up then to kind of complement the 2 romantic physical books that I was just reading. I feel like these 4, Far From Normal, The American Roommate, Experiment, Every Other Weekend, and One Last Stop, these are more, again, romance books, so I don't feel like I'm going to be in the mood for any of these, at least with this readathon. So I have these 5 to choose from, and I kind of want to use this to narrow down which ones I would actually have close by. So we have On the Come Up, The Girl with the Louding Voice, Will Grayson, The Girl Who Fell from the Sky, and Counterfeit. I feel like I'm already going to knock Will Grayson off with this readathon because in February, I read An Abundance of Catherines for my readathon, so I kind of want to give John Green a break and give some other authors a try. I feel like On the Come Up has been a book that I have really wanted to read for a while and just haven't, been in the right mood or whatnot, but I feel like I am wanting to go back to a YA and I really like The Hate You Give, so I feel like this is going to be a really good one to complement the two heavy romance ones. So after finishing On the Come Up, I think this will be the order of how I'll read the next few books, and maybe I'll keep this order into the next readathon. I don't know, it'll really depend on what I read next month, but after On the Come Up, I'll get to Counterfeit, Girl with a Louding Voice, and The Girl Who Fell from the Sky. So I'm glad that I have, at least an idea of what physical books I want to pick up next, because to be honest, I mean, this book looks decently chunky, but so does the Emily Henry one, and I feel like I've been flying through it. So I think it's all just going to depend. And I think it'll depend on how I feel about the ebook arcs that I am also reading and how long my eyes can stand to stare at my phone. So for our main books for this readathon, we'll finish Alone with You in the Ether, Happy Place, and hopefully On the Come Up. On the audiobook end, hopefully finishing If We Were Villains, Atlantia, and then Wrong Place, Wrong Time. And then on the ebook end, finishing The Night in Question, and then Guardians of the Dawn, Zahara. Again, I feel like I'm really excited for this lineup, and I have a lot of activities I feel like that I'm going to take you with that I haven't done in other readathons. And yeah, I feel like I'm excited to get to every single one of these books. So let's hope I can make this, my best readathon ever and get past 24 hours, because I feel like I've never really gotten past the 24-hour mark. So I really want to push myself to get past that mark. And then, yeah, we'll see where we go from there. So let's start reading. Hopefully my buddy reader and I will be able to finish Happy Place today, I'm thinking. It just depends on when both of us are free. We usually read together, and she's super flexible with her schedule, as am I. Usually we read at like 2 o'clock, but I don't think I'll be able to today. We'll see how the book's going. I feel like I'm liking Happy Place, but I feel like it's really going to depend on how it wraps up, what my final ranking is. So I'm going to listen to If We Were Villains for a little bit now. And this, it's for somebody, and if I had the physical book, that somebody would not be me. It's very based on Shakespeare, and Shakespeare's just not my favorite. I know some people live by Shakespeare. I'm not one of those people. It's not a bad book. It just feels like hurry up and wait a lot. The pacing isn't necessarily my favorite. And also the main character, I just feel like he does not care about finding out what happened to the guy that was and I'm like, I feel like you should care about that. I really feel like you should. So his motivations are interesting in that sense. But yeah, like I said, about 2.5 hours left. And hopefully that is one for sure I will finish today. Probably won't finish Alone with You in the Ether, because that book takes me forever to read. But yeah, I'll give you my final thoughts on If We Were Villains. Maybe it gets really good at the end. I don't really know. But because the main character doesn't really care about figuring out who, got rid of one of their people, I don't really care. And I feel like that just makes it hard to stay invested in the book. So we'll keep going. I've only read about 18 minutes, so we'll see the next time I check in where we're at. Alrighty, so it's a little bit later in the day. One activity that I do that I think will be really useful for the summer readathons is I listen to an audiobook while I cut the grass. I don't know if that's good for my ears, but it feels good for my soul because I get to listen to an audiobook. So we are now changed. I'm probably going to get burned, but we're going to keep listening to If We Were Villains. Again, I don't know. We're at another prologue part, and I really like those. But then after that, I don't know. We'll have to see. Maybe my mind will change in the next 2 hours, but this definitely isn't a 5-star read for me. We cut the grass. My little time lapse stopped early. Oops, but that's okay. No big. We're an hour and 18 minutes in. My buddy reader said she's going to be available, so I'm picking Happy Place back up, and my next check-in is probably going to be either when we finish Happy Place or when I finish If We Were Villains, because I only have an hour and a half left of If We Were Villains. I want to get to the end of both books, but for very different reasons. So we'll see which one I finish first. I'm pausing my buddy read to say that they're talking about multiple universes in Happy Place, and they also talk about multiple universes in Alone with You in the Ether. It's just not my vibe in like contemporary romances. Take me to multiple universes and fantasy. Please don't send me into an existential crisis in these books. Oh my gosh, at least The Happy Place, it's easier to digest the whole multiple universes thing. And Alone with You in the Ether, above my head every time. All right, Teddy and I, and Bear, my two puggles, are gonna do some reading of Alone with You in the Ether. I finished If We Were Villains. Listen, I gotta look up if there's gonna be a sequel or not, because that really is going to affect my rating of that book. Hi, it's Entity Anna, and there's not a sequel to If We Were Villains. Again, I can see how people like it. It was not the book for me. And I don't know if that's how like all dark academia books are. I don't know. I definitely want to give more a try in that genre because I don't know. I want to like that genre so much, but this just wasn't the book for me. I did start Atalanta, which I learned is, if you've read the Percy Jackson series up to book 3, where you meet Artemis and learn about the hunters, I feel like Atalanta is a good example of what a hunter could be in someone's mind. I know that's not, I don't think that's what Rick based the hunters off of, but I feel like that's the nearest comparison. I'm liking it so far. I'm like less than an hour into it. I am going to, like I said, read Alone with You in the Ether for I don't know how long. And maybe my buddy reader might reach back out and we can keep reading Happy Place. But so far, we are one book down for the readathon. The good news is I'm already over 5 hours in, which I know on my first nights, my goal is to usually get to 5 hours. I'm going to stay up for another like hour and a half, and we'll see how far I get with this book. I'm going to give it another 20 pages. I am liking when the two main characters are actually talking to each other, but like when they do all their self-reflection, it's just so tough to get through. So I think depending on what, if they continue to have conversations and it's less them thinking, I feel like I'm going to like it better. So, because this is all about like, it's supposed to be a love story, but I feel like I've learned more about bees than I've like ever wanted to by reading the first 80 pages of this book. We'll see if I get to page 100 tonight or if my buddy reader reaches back out and we read Happy Place together. I don't know. We're almost done with this one though. So what's in the pink is what's left. And what's not in the blue over here is what I have left of Alone with You in the Ether. It's about 10 o'clock at night. We are over 7 hours in. I've read quite a bit more. This is how much I've read now, and this is the unread part of Alone with You in the Ether. I think I'm gonna finish it. I don't know. It's just definitely a book that I feel meh about. Like, I don't think I'm going to give it above a 3 stars for me unless something like really changes at the end. I'm just not sure. Didn't read any more of Happy Place, didn't listen to any more of Atalanta, and didn't read any of The Night in Question today. So I feel like I said, I have a pretty good lineup stacked for the weekend. I definitely want to power through this because I'm at page like 146. And I started at 80, and I feel like I've been reading for like 2 hours. So this is just definitely a book that takes me a little longer. I don't know if it's the size of the text or what exactly it is. Also, like this book here is worth $27. We got it during the half price Barnes & Noble sale, so that was good. But like this seems very expensive for like the size of book that it is. I don't know, but I'll see you at day 2 tomorrow. So I just finished Alone with You in the Ether. We're at 9 hours and 50 minutes. So it took me almost another 3 hours to finish the book. And man, at page 100, I was like, okay, I can keep going. They're talking a lot. I feel like I need books with dialogue. I feel like that's somewhat of a common thing. Maybe that's a little funky to say, but I need books where people are talking to each other. It just makes it a little hard to follow along. The book is like a 2 star at most. I don't know. I'm going to have to think about that rating. But I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start on the come up, read it for about an hour. Then I want to read The Night in Question for about an hour. And then my buddy reader might be reaching back out to me. I don't know, but I'm really excited to start On the Come Up. If there's not dialogue in that book, I think I might cry. I just read about an hour of On the Come Up. It's really good. I feel like Angie Thomas is just masterful when she's talking about race, and it connects back to The Hate U Give. And I really just, like, I get so enthralled in her works. I think I read like 70 pages already. It's just so good. So I'm really excited to keep reading it. And I was going to switch to my ebook, but my buddy reader just messaged me. So we're going to probably finish Happy Place. I don't know. I'm really excited. And then hopefully I will read my ebook a little bit later. But honestly, I kind of just want to keep reading On the Come Up. It's really good. I just finished Happy Place by Emily Henry. I don't think it was my favorite one of her books. I do think it had the least likable male main character for me. And to be honest, I haven't really disliked any of Emily Henry's main male characters before. So I think that influenced it. But I definitely think it had some of my favorite side characters, and it felt just more fleshed out than some of her other books in some parts, but it also left me wanting. Definitely better than Alone with You in the Ether, for sure. Not my favorite Emily Henry book. That's still going to be Book Lovers. I'm exactly at 12 hours. I have some chores that I want to get done, so I'm going to go back to listening to Atalanta, which I am enjoying her story so far. I feel like it's definitely going to pick up because she hasn't... So, with Atalanta, and I don't think this is a spoiler, but, in Greek mythology, because I looked it up, she becomes one of Artemis's hunters that, pledges her life to Artemis, and that hasn't happened yet. So I know that there's still more to come. I feel like there's a lot being set up, so I really like the book, and I do want to check out the other books by Jennifer Saint, which is Electra and Ariadne. So I definitely want to get to those two at some point. I don't know when. But yeah, we'll see how long I listen to Atalanta. My husband picked up his car, which is super exciting, so we're going to drive that for a little bit. But I am definitely leaning more towards picking up On the Come Up when I get back to reading a physical book than my ebook arc, which, shame on me, I guess, for choosing a really good book when I know I have arcs to read. But I already have read 2 ebook arcs this month, which I feel like is pretty good. So if I don't get to a third one, it's okay. But I'm hoping I have time for all of that. All right, we did about a half an hour of listening of Atalanta because I can't stop thinking about On the Come Up. I looked up On the Come Up. I usually look up books on TikTok to see what other people say. I know this is from 2019, so I'm a little late to the party, but it's okay. And I realized there's a movie about this book came out last year. So once I finish the book, I'm definitely gonna watch the movie. I already in the first 70 pages, there's already one specific scene that I was like, wow, this would make a really good movie. And especially because The Hate U Give, I thought was also a pretty good movie. I was like, wow, I wonder if they'll make this into a movie too. Late to the party again. So we're gonna read On the Come Up until my husband gets back and we take a little trip in the new car. Okay, so my husband came home. We drove his new car for a little bit. I stopped reading at 13 hours and 39 minutes. We're gonna jump back into On the Come Up. This is 452 pages, and I've already read this much just today. I'm on page 151. So we are just going through it. I feel like it's really good. I would not be surprised if I definitely finished it during the readathon. I kind of want to set a fun goal and try to finish it today. It is only 3:30 in the afternoon, so I definitely have time, especially because I'm staying up to see what songs Taylor Swift is going to play today for her Eras tour. We'll see how far we get in the next update. I just finished On the Come Up. This was so good. I really loved this, and I hope the movie does it justice. There are definitely scenes in here that I hope go really well on screen. Honestly, I feel like this is a 5 out of 5 star read for me. I really loved all the messaging in this book. It felt so real too. It wasn't necessarily like a rags to riches story, which I feel like, you know, a lot of books could be. I felt like it was very honest. There wasn't like a perfect main character. She goes through a lot of growth in this book, and I really like this book. It was really good. So my plan is now, because it's about 8 o'clock at night, is I want to start Counterfeit for about an hour. So I'm going to set another timer on a phone for an hour so that I can, at 9 o'clock, ideally start reading on the phone I'm recording on right now so that I can read a little bit of the night in question. And I want to do that because, like I said, I know Taylor Swift's surprise songs usually come on between like 9:20 to 9:30 is when they start, and I definitely want to see what song she plays tonight. So if I switch to reading on my phone, it'll just be easier to check TikTok every once in a while. But we are almost at 17 hours, which is super exciting. I don't think I've gotten that much ever. So I'm excited to start Counterfeit. I don't know what it's about. There is a permanent sticker on here, but I'm going to remove the sticker and we'll see. Definitely not as long as On the Come Up, but the pages, you know, the text is a little bit closer together. I don't know, but we'll see. This book is also the only book that I own with deckled edges. Those are just not my favorite things to feel, so I'm also really excited to like read this book so I don't have to touch deckled edges hopefully ever again. Got through the first 40 pages of Counterfeit, and it's a book that is all past tense, doesn't have any like modern day quotations, and parts of Alone with You in the Ether were like that, but I think because Counterfeit is in first person, I'm following it a lot easier than the third person that Alone with You in the Ether was mainly in, even though Alone with You in the Ether would also switch to third persons at time, which I think made it more confusing because like I like the dialogue in books, and so there's still dialogue in Counterfeit. There's just no like specific quotation marks. But again, I think having it in first person makes it a lot easier to digest. So I'm not 100% sure how I feel about this book, but it's piqued my interest enough to where I want to read it. I'm not necessarily bored. It's just a style that I haven't really read before. So now we're going to read The Night in Question until we see what surprise songs Taylor Swift plays, and we'll do our final wrap up for day 2 of the readathon after that. I tried reading some of The Night in Question and my eyes are just so tired. I think because I've had my glasses on for like the majority of the day. And so I think I'm just going to listen to Atalanta for a while. I really want to get over 18 hours and I'm only about 5 minutes away from that. So that's what we're gonna do. Give my eyes a little break and we'll see how much of Atalanta I listen to tonight. Hopefully earlier tomorrow in the day, I can prioritize reading on my phone before my eyes get too tired. All right, good morning. I fell asleep without giving an update last night. My mistake. We are at 18 hours and 10 minutes. My goal for today, they're kind of like tiered. So the first goal is to finish Counterfeit because I have another book that I want to read physically and kind of start my May TBR. The second goal would be to finish The Night in Question, and then the third goal would be to finish Atalanta. I really don't know how feasible any of those goals are. We are starting bright and early at around 6:30 in the morning. My first focus will be, I think I'm going to switch between Counterfeit and The Night in Question, like read one for an hour then the other one. I don't want to save The Night in Question again for the late night. My eyes are already tired. And then I feel like Atalanta is probably going to take up the majority of my afternoon, which is fine because I have some other like chores and I want to work on my Taylor Swift tours outfit and I can do that while listening to an audiobook. So we're gonna begin and just see where it goes from here. So we are 20 hours and 37 minutes in and it's only 9 a.m. So I definitely feel like I'm going to have this be like my most successful time for readathons. At this point, I am over halfway done with Counterfeit. What's in the little dust jacket is what I have left. And I believe I'm over 33% of the way done with The Night in Question. So I feel really confident about finishing this today. I'm not sure about the night in question. I feel like it's taking me a little bit longer to read, but also it could be because I'm reading it on my phone. So I'm going to take just like a little break to move around. I'll probably read on my treadmill because yesterday was like my full rest day. So trying to get back into some healthy habits. And I'm also going to briefly rearrange my bookshelf because I want to pick out what I'm reading for May and hopefully start my first May TBR book today, since tomorrow's May 1st, so it's close enough for me. And we'll see how it's going to go after that. Counterfeit, I think, is still really interesting, especially the way that it's written from this like first person perspective. And you can tell that she's having a conversation with the detective, and the detective's not saying anything. It's all coming from her. So there's no quotation marks, like I'd mentioned. I'm definitely really interested in seeing what happens. It's definitely a new style of book I haven't read before. And then in terms of the night in question, I feel like the characters, I don't know, I definitely liked them in the first book, could see how they're unlikable. But now with some of the decisions that are being made, I'm just kind of like, okay, like I get it for the sake of the plot, but like, I don't know, their character development, I guess, is going kind of backwards for me. So we'll have to see if there's any type of like redemption arc with the rest of the book there, and what Iris and Alice are going to look like by the end of the book. So I'm very interested. But yeah, we're gonna actually move around a little bit since I feel like I have sat for the majority of the 20 hours that I've read this weekend, and I definitely need to move around a little bit. It's about 4:45 now on the last day of our readathon. I finished The Night in Question. I didn't like it as much as the first. I still liked it though. I would probably give it like a 4 out of 5 stars, I think. Listen to a little more of Atalanta. I think I'm really gonna like Atalanta, but not as much as Circe, I think. I don't know, it's gonna depend. I feel like I'm definitely gonna like Atalanta more than I like The Song of Achilles, and I feel like The Song of Achilles, Atalanta, Circe, and then Jennifer Saint's other books, Electra and Ariadne, all fall into, that like Greek mythological retelling. So, like I said, I think I am going to like Atalanta more than The Song of Achilles, but I don't know if I'll like it more than I liked Circe's. We'll have to see how that goes. So now I am reading Counterfeit, and we've just gone to part 2 of the book. And so the first part of the book was in first person, no quotation marks for speaking. And now in the second part of the book, we're in third person, and there are quotation marks for people speaking. So I don't really know when in time we are or how that happened, but that's where we're at with that book. I'm still enjoying Counterfeit, so I still want to continue reading it, but the sudden change from part 1 to part 2 just wasn't expecting. We are 24 hours and 54 minutes into the readathon, and I'm still probably going to be awake for another like 6 hours, I think, at the max, maybe a little later than that, which makes me really excited because I definitely want to get over 25 hours, which I think is my longest readathon. So my goal is to finish Counterfeit. I have this much left to go. And then I'm going to do some other chores, work on my Eras Tour outfit while listening to Atalanta whenever I finish Counterfeit. I have like 110 pages left of Counterfeit to go, but it seems like a pretty quick read. So I'm curious when I'll finish it. Yeah, that's kind of the update right now. I did go ahead and buy a book with one of my book buying credits. I decided to buy Meet Me at the Lake, which is going to be a buddy read. And that book releases the day this video releases, so May 2nd. So I'm excited to also get that book and buddy read. I love doing that with my TikTok friends. So that'll be really fun to do. And yeah, now back into Counterfeit. Alrighty, so I just finished Counterfeit. I thought it was really good. I was definitely thrown for a loop. I wasn't fully expecting it. I like books that aren't necessarily predictable, so this was like a fun read and not a usual genre either. I don't even know what you would classify it outside of just like fiction, because there was like mystery and drama and all of those schemes, like maybe a mystery, but I don't know. It was very interesting regardless. We are at 26 hours and 52 minutes. I did listen to a little bit of Atalanta, gave myself a little switch in mediums, and now I just realized that in terms of physical book, The first physical book that I'm reading this month will probably be my buddy read that is getting here on Tuesday, because with this buddy reader and I, we just like fly through books. So I don't want to start anything physical until that comes in. I might start Guardians of the Dawn Zahara tonight, but I'm going to start with Atalanta for the next few hours, work on some little chores, and then we'll see how my eyes are feeling, because I have to read Guardians of the Dawn on my phone and I don't want to overwhelm my eyes. So let's go do some chores. All right, made some good progress on Atalanta and the Eras Tour outfit. I am really going to try to finish this, I don't know, next weekend, the weekend after. We are at 28 hours and 14 minutes. I don't know if I'm gonna start Guardians of the Dawn Zara, or if I'm just gonna listen to Atalanta for the rest of the night. I really wanna try to give Guardians of the Dawn Zahara. I think that's also too long of a name. I think it's just Zahara. I believe that's all it is, and I want to try to read some of it today just to start to get the feel for it, and then probably switch to Atalanta maybe only after like a half hour. I don't know. So I really want to start that ebook, because that's going to be one of my ebooks that I want to read next month. And yeah, overall, like, this has been the longest readathon, which is very exciting, and we'll see what the total amount of hours is at some point. If I do start Zara, I'll give a little like update about that, and then I'll do final hours probably tomorrow. Okay, it's officially May 1st. We've read 29 hours and 33 minutes. So I really want next month, I think, to hit 30 hours between the 3 days, which I just feel like would be an exciting milestone to hit. So let's review all the books I finished. My only audiobook that I finished was If We Were Villains. This was okay, definitely was my favorite, but I want to try another dark academia book that's maybe not Shakespeare based. I also finished my one ebook, which was The Night in Question. I did start Zara, Guardians of the Dawn one. I don't know. I'm gonna have to dig into like what that series is about. I know the author made a long post on Goodreads, so I do want to read that. I read about 21 pages into it, and I feel like it's really good so far. Like, I'm very intrigued in the world. It doesn't feel like super heavy, you know, high fantasy world building, but I definitely feel like there's gonna be, you know, a lot of lore behind this. And then my favorite part for this readathon is our stack of 4 physical books that I finished. Starting with Alone with You in the Ether. This was not my favorite, but I was glad I finished it during the readathon. We had Happy Place by Emily Henry, which was a buddy read, so that was really fun. On the Come Up, 5 out of 5 stars, and I can't wait to compare the book to the movie. And then we have Counterfeit, which I think the plot twists in this reminded me of The Housemaid, but less violent. So I really liked it. I'm also glad I don't have to read it anymore, because I just don't like touching those deckled edges. So I would say the April readathon was a pretty big success. For the May readathon, I am doing it a week early before the end of May, because I have a bachelorette party the last weekend of May, and I'm not going to do a readathon during the bachelorette party. So let me know what you thought of the books, and if you have suggestions on what books I should read for the May readathon, since I kind of showed you what standalone books I have in my repertoire.